From the KUDZUKIAN studios in Memphis, Tennessee, it's iConversation.
Elliot Perry, otherwise known as Socks.
Man, thank you. How you guys doing?
Mr. Earl the Pearl Monroe.
Hey, thank you. Nice to be with you guys.
Glad to have Mr. Allen Houston.
Trying to stay warm up here in New York.
I hear you. Personality extraordinaire, Mr. Scoop Jackson.
I appreciate the encore.
Mr. Michael Ray Richardson.
What's up, man? Glad to be here, brother.
A 3-time NBA All-Star, the one, the only, Detlef Shrimp.
Howard, Larry, thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to be on the show.
iConversation. iConversation. iConversation.
Welcome back to another edition of iConversation. I am one of your wonderful co-hosts, Larry Robinson, and my trusted partner in crime,
the token white girl, Jennifer Conroy. And we've been having discussions on race and sports with our opening iConversation.
Absolutely, man. You know, this is a really cool series, you know, because we're really being able to talk with people about some topics that really don't get a lot of attention.
You know why?
Especially on mainstream media. Why?
Because we don't stick to sports.
Well, why is that? Why is it that we don't stick to sports?
Because we're at a place in time where we no longer can afford the luxury of sticking to sports. The intersection has arrived and we've collided. And if we don't have these conversations, and for people to think that they don't exist within sports is just insane to me.
I agree with you, JC. I mean, you know, it's interesting to me that we're expected to stay in this silo of just talking about sports.
Right.
And that sports is not a microcosm of life. But when you have statement after statement after statement of how sports and life are so analogous and such symbiotic to one another, that we really do have that overlap. We do have an overlap. And so much of sports is interwoven into our culture.
It's fabric. It's the fabric.
It's absolutely. It's the one time that we all get together. But you know what's not?
And it was a perfect opportunity for the military to come into the NFL and say, hey, we're going to pay you $5 million, $10 million. We want you to play the anthem. Recruitment's down. Got all these people. Sports is America.
It's apple pie.
It's apple pie.
Absolutely. So listen, we're going to have some really cool people on. I mean, literally, we've had Sam Perkins.
Yep.
We literally going to bring back Dr. Harry Edwards.
Yep.
We'll bring Scoop Jackson in.
Scoop.
Yeah, my man Scoop. But today, we got a unique guy. We got a unique guy that I think will really be able to say some things that is very unique. Now, our guest is from Fox Sports.
Yes.
And what is I'm digging about Fox Sports right now, even though I'm not a big fan of Fox as an overall network, but for Fox Sports is that they're allowing their commentators and personalities the breath to really say what's on their mind, to be opinionated, and to cause a stir. And I'd like to point out, you know, one of my most favorite people right now in all of sports commentary is Shannon Sharpe.
Yes.
I call Shannon Sharpe the most woke sports journalist in the country right now.
He's got some beautiful teeth, too.
Hey, man, I tell you, the brother dresses exceptionally well.
He is sharp.
He dresses really sharp.
Although his buddy across the way I could do without.
You don't like Skip?
No, I don't like Skip. I don't like Skip at all. Because I think that Skip is one of those guys that gets a pass for walking over that line. Like the Gordon Hayward tweet that he put out that said, you know, now it's just a clear path for LeBron James to fail.
Well, see, I didn't see that as really that damaging, but I know other people did, and I thought it was in poor taste. Yes, but I didn't see it being very damaging.
He also has a burner Twitter account like Kevin Durant does, so I really can't. He's one of those guys that doesn't get it on such a regular basis that sitting across from Shannon Sharpe, you would think that something would leak in. And
I think plenty is leaked in with Skip Bayless. I like Skip Bayless on Fox Sports more than I liked him on ESPN.
For sure.
And so First Take, I really have a time. I really am not looking at First Take as much because of the fact that I really don't like the shtick of Stephen A.
Yeah.
It's just overwhelming. But listen, we have a great guest on iConversation today. And that guest is Mike Hill of Fox Sports and FS1.
Yes.
He's also one of the pregame and postgame commentators for the Los Angeles Clippers. Mike's a former military man and also a former employee of ESPN. So we're gonna get into some real crazy stuff.
Does not have an album.
We're gonna talk about Jamel Hill. We're gonna talk about the players, and we're gonna talk about the national anthem and players kneeling. We're gonna talk about a lot of things, and we're gonna talk about Mike. We're gonna get into his background and give you a better idea of who this powerhouse of a sports personality is. So listen, sit back, relax,
catch a contact, sip this cognac. Let's all wash this money through this laundromat.
Go ahead, drop it lyrics on the girl.
Just a little Nas to start the day.
All right, now, so listen, y'all come back right after this.
Hey, this is your guy, DC. Funky Politics. We're back. A brand new season, brand new shows, brand new guests. We're going to do it just right. Right here on the KUDZUKIAN Network.
Riffin' on Jazz.
This next gentleman we're talking about has an unforgettable voice.
My sugar is so refined.
Jazz was the happiest. Now, Calloway went to my school.
Oh, really?
Yes, he's not an alum because he didn't graduate. He had some gigs to do.
Riffin' on Jazz on the KUDZUKIAN Network.
Artivism, funky politics, neighborhood connect, blues in the basement, riffin' on jazz. Best in blue, KUDZUKIAN, KUDZUKIAN.
iConversation. Shake that.
And we are back. As we said, we got Mike Hill from Fox FS1. He's also the commentator of the daggone Clippers games. I mean, this dude is a serious, I don't want to be politically incorrect, but, we call these folks Jamaicans because he has a whole bunch of jobs. I mean, seriously. What's up, Mike?
What's up, man? How you doing, man?
Nice. A little Irish.
That's all I got when it comes to my Caribbean accent. I was married to a Caribbean lady, and I still didn't pick up the Caribbean accent.
Oh, that means you didn't get your groove back, my friend.
Yeah, I'm trying to forget those days.
I'm working on that.
I'm still paying for it, if you know what I mean. Yeah, I'm still paying for it.
Yeah,
literally still paying for it with the alimony payments. But what's up with y'all?
Those are so fun.
Y'all tell me about it. When you receive them, they're fun. When you got to pay them out.
I happen to be on the receiving end because, I'm a catcher, not a pitcher.
Sometimes you want to be jobless after you pay them out. So it's like, oh, my gosh.
Isn't that our goal?
You want to understate your income. Like,
I know.
I'm on an EBT card.
It puts a new name to whoop that clip, huh?
No, right? No, I might as well be a pimp. I'm serious. I'm being pimped out right now.
Well, here in Memphis, it's hard out here for a pimp.
It is. It's too hard. It's hot out there for a pimp, too. It's hot out here in L.A. right now.
Man, y'all got some crazy temperatures. But check this out, Mike. In the first segment, we always say, kind of give us a rundown on what you are doing right now.
Oh, like you said, man, I'm doing just about everything, which is good. It's a blessing. I'm not complaining about anything because I'm working a lot, but I work over at Fox Sports, FS1, doing college football, college basketball, did baseball up until the postseason.
Nice.
I'm working for the Clippers, as you mentioned, doing that pre- and post-game show. I got my own production company called Thrill of Entertainment, where I got a couple of concepts, a couple of show ideas that I got in development deals right now with a couple of other production companies.
Love it.
I'm hosting a couple of shows. I got my own radio show called Fox Sports Radio with Ephraim Salam on Sundays. What else? Oh, I'm doing my podcast. That's
right.
Right now, my podcast with Claudia Jordan, Guy Torrey, and Steve Wilson is called The Unstabled Podcast. I know that is grammatically incorrect, but we're politically incorrect, and we are we call ourselves the Oddcast with the podcast because we're the most dangerous podcast in the nation right now.
Hey, man, with that lineup, I would have to agree because Guy Torrey's crazy.
And, you know.
Guy Torrey, he'll tell you he's tripolar. He's like, you never know what you're going to get with Guy. He's very unfiltered. He's out there. He's one of my best friends out here in L.A. I've been knowing Guy for 10 years now, and he's just a crazy and wild guy. Anything can fly out of his mouth at any time. But I'll tell you, man, that Claudia Jordan, she is the star of the show. I mean, really? Claudia is so unfiltered. You see this pretty former model. I guess she's always going to be a model. Price is Right on The Real Housewives and all that stuff you see Claudia on. And she's got this little meek little demeanor about her, man. But underneath, man, she is raw. She will cut you with a fish blade. She is she is very intelligent. Don't get me wrong, but yeah, her mouth, boy, is the most dangerous thing on that show.
I hear you. Well, listen. We're going to be back on the other side with Mike Hill. Listen, this is our conversation on the KUDZUKIAN Network, and we'll be right back with more Mike Hill. And we're going to find out a little more about Mike and what he thinks about Shannon Sharpe, what he thinks about some of his colleagues like Jason Whitlock.
Uh-oh, sure you ready for that?
Definitely ready
for that. So we'll be right back right after this.
Eye conversation. Eye conversation. Eye conversation.
And this is JC, and we are back with Eye Conversations with Mike Hill, who, as he mentioned, has a production company called Thrill Production and has an album that dropped in 2016 that's pretty groovy. You should check it out. And Mike, you play the bass. How did you get into bass?
I was wondering where you was going with that because I don't. That's not me. I don't know.
You're not the bass player?
No. I was like, okay, well,
you got the wrong brother. Oh man, we're gonna have to check your Wikipedia page, JC.
No, I was looking on YouTube because I came across it and it was like Mike Hill with this album, Love and War, and so I picked it up and your name is attached to it and it says sportscaster and there's a picture of you up underneath it.
What?
Oh wow! You missing some royalty checks, brother.
Yeah, I was like, and your bio, it's like, you're an urban dude. And so I was looking at it and I was like, well.
Somebody pretend to be. Now, your life got to be really low to pretend to be me.
No, I'm serious. It says James Michael, Mike Hill.
Wow, they even got my first name.
Man, you don't put the brother's government name out there. You know he might be running from the IRS or something, man.
I got baby mama's looking for me right now. Come on, man.
You gonna put his government out there, JC?
I'm a token white girl.
Do, man. That's what white folks do. They put your whole government name, James Michael Hill.
JC, I gotta ask you. I gotta find out where this is because I need to know who's pretending to be me playing bass. If I got a skill,
they got a whole crew and stuff.
Wow.
I listened to it. I was like, well.
Is it good? Is it good?
The music part of it is pretty dope, I gotta say.
What about the bass part? What about the guy that's playing bass that's pretending to be me?
He's the best guy.
Okay, well then, yeah, it's me.
I was like, we can talk about musical influence and because there's some jazz, going on in there, but it ain't you.
Okay, well listen, great point, great segue. This is our conversation, so we having this conversation with this icon, the icon of Mike Hill. Let me ask you, Mike, what kind of music you listening to, brother?
Yeah.
What you listening to right now?
I listen to rap and R&B. I do. I'm a little older, but I can't shake it. Some of it I can't get into, but then I do have two teenage daughters who kind of keep me hip. They send me playlists and things like that, my workout music, and I enjoy it. I kind of get down with it. I do enjoy the classics. If you take it back in the day, the 80s and 90s R&B a little bit more.
Okay.
I mean, that was real music to me, whatnot. But yeah, I kind of stay hip with the.
All right, give me some names, man. Give me some names. When you putting that playlist together, you got a little set coming over to the crib. You got a few friends and everything. You're gonna be cooking out, laughing, joking. Give me a couple songs on the playlist.
Well, of course, you stay with the Kendricks of the world, the Drakes and things like that. I can still get down with 2 Chainz because they got a little southern in me. I get some of that goo-wop, that Gucci Mane.
If Drake shows up, though, to the Clippers game, y'all going to lose. I'm just letting you know.
Oh, no. Well, Drake Drake is always talking about some basketball that he really doesn't know much about. But yeah, I'm sorry. I know that's from he's from Memphis too. So he spent some time in Memphis. I understand that.
His dad DJ is a real good friend of ours, man. DJ's a good guy. Hangs out quite a bit.
He'll pick up the rain too when Drake makes it rain. He goes around and picks it back up.
Quick story, man. I'm talking to DJ. They said they're going into a club. Now DJ, of course, is Drake's dad. He says so. Drake hands him a big stack of money, and he says, "Okay, so Dad, at the right time, you're supposed to throw this in the air." He said, "Man, I'm holding about $50,000, and you want me to throw it in the air?" He said, "Are you out of your mind?" He said so. When it was time to throw up the money, he said, "I threw up about 10." And the rest I stuck in my pocket.
Yeah.
DJ is a smart man. That's why he's the daddy.
Right, right.
The son. Like Jay-Z said, I'm at an age right now. What's better than throwing money in the strip club? Credit. That's my credit, man. Yeah,
absolutely.
I would much rather have credit.
Absolutely.
Wish you had that later in life.
So listen, Mike, you out there, and you're on iConversation, and we're sitting back talking with Mike Hill, FS1. Listen, man. Now, I see a very big difference in the sportscasters on FS1. You have everyone from a Colin Cowherd to a Jason Whitlock to a Shannon Sharp to yourself, and then you how is it that you guys have so much different flavor and can present that flavor at FS1 where you didn't have that flexibility at ESPN?
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good question. I mean, I think you kind of had the flexibility. You just had them on different shows on ESPN. I think that's one of the reasons I've been able to stay in this game for 22 years now. I've been doing sportscasting for 22 years is because I've been able to be flexible. I think if you look at my bio, if you look at the way that people describe me in this business, they'll say that I'm versatile. I'm able to do the debate shows. I'm able to do the host shows where I'm on SportsCenter or whatnot, or FS1 when I was on Fox Sports Live. I'm able to do the studio shows where I'm talking the games, pre and post game or whatever, do ad-libs. I'm able to do all those different things and whatnot. The different shows allow you to be flexible because they have different personalities. Now, there are a lot of the debate shows that are on right now that you see the Shannon Sharps and Skip Baylesses, the Jason Whitlocks of the world on there, whatnot, spouting off, saying some reckless stuff sometimes in Jason Whitlock's case. I ain't gonna get into that.
Yeah.
But
Skip's too.
I really shouldn't say that. But the thing is, like, they all have their opinion, and you got to respect their opinion to a certain extent until it kind of crosses the line. If we stuck with sports, if it was just about the Kobe's of the world and the LeBrons and who's better, Kobe or LeBron, you had a conversation about that, or debate, or taking a side with that type of stuff. I have no problem with that. I think that's what you do in the barbershop. That's what most men do when they hang around and start talking about sports. And women, of course, JC, that's what you do when you're talking about sports, whatnot. But when you start talking about political issues, in which political issues are really now starting to seep into the sports world, of course, with the kneeling and all that stuff that's going on right now, and the president getting involved, then I think that's when you really have to be careful about what you say and the message that you put out there.
Absolutely.
Because you do have a huge influence on a huge amount of people out there, and your words can be taken and they can be very dangerous. So I think we have a responsibility as sportscasters, as broadcasters these days, CNN, Fox, ESPN, or FS1, where we have to be careful and we have to be educated on the things that we're talking about when it comes to the political issues that are seeping into the world of sports.
Do you feel like it's a you're with us or against us type feeling? Because there are, Jameel Hill's gotten her suspension over what she said, but it's hard to be impartial as a journalist when these are heavy issues. Do you feel like ESPN is and other media outlets are now kind of the you're with us or against us, fall in line or speak at your own risk?
Yeah, I mean, well, I used to work at ESPN for 9 years too, and I know how their policies are over there when it comes to social media. And they have gotten a lot more liberal than they have been in the past. I mean, I've
liberal?
told the story before. Yeah, they've gotten much more liberal than they've been in the past. I got suspended when I was at ESPN for the most innocuous tweet in the history of mankind. It was about 6, 7 years ago I was there, and we had one of the big bosses. I mean, he was like the head of the network, actually came and observed one of the shows that I was on with my crew. And I put out a tweet on Twitter, obviously, and I said, the big boss is observing our show, and my pod, meaning my crew, is tighter than a gnat's ass.
Nice.
I put that out there. Very innocuous.
Yeah.
I thought it was just kind of stupid or whatever, just making tight, meaning that we're running a tight ship.
Right.
Everybody's kind of rigid or whatnot. And a publication called Sports Business Journal picked it up and called it the joke of the day. And ESPN saw that, and they got pissed. They got upset. They thought I was embarrassing the big boss or whatever for whatever reason. So they suspended me, and they took away a trip that I was supposed to have out here to Los Angeles before I moved to Los Angeles away from me for that. So now you see,
Kunta.
with Jamel's.
Toby.
Yeah, I know, right?
Kunta.
It's crazy, man. So now you see, what people are putting on their Twitter now. And I'm like, man, I got suspended for that. I could have gotten away with a lot of stuff. So they was always thinking that I was the dangerous one. I was the edgy one when I was at ESPN. And it's gotten a lot more liberal. But now, when you look at it, to answer your question, JC, I do believe that, you know what, you do have a responsibility because you do represent the network, and you got to understand that even at Fox, and Fox allows us to do a lot of different things on our social media. They don't really interfere that much unless they feel like you're crossing the line on certain things, but they'll talk to you first before they publicly admonish you or whatnot. So
hold on, Mike, you rolling, but we got to go to a break. Listen, This is our conversation. We have Mike Hill, FS1, Clippers sports commentator, pre and post game. Listen, come back.
Baby
We're gonna
daddy.
get more baby daddy. We're gonna be back on the other side. We're gonna still ask him about Shannon Sharpe. We're gonna ask him about Jason Whitlock. As you know, this is our race and sports series. So come on back.
iConversation on KUDZUKIAN.
Artivism, Best in Blue, Funky Politics, Blues in the Basement, Neighborhood Connect, Riffin' on Jazz. On the KUDZUKIAN Network.
KUDZUKIAN.
If you only have love for your own race, then you only leave space to discriminate. And to discriminate only generates hate. And when you hate, then you're bound to get irate. Yeah, madness is what you demonstrate. And that's
We're back with iConversation. We have Mike Hill of FS1, Fox Sports, and also Clippers. So listen, Mike, you got some very incendiary colleagues over at FS1, and we just gonna go down the line. My favorite on the whole network is Shannon Sharpe. Shannon Sharpe has to be the most woke journalist in America. What's your impression of Shannon? And once again, how does a Shannon Sharpe exist when a Jamel Hill can't? If you know what I'm saying.
Well, I think they can coexist, but it's different networks and different attitudes, whatever. But Shannon, man, I think, like you said, as far as our network is concerned, I do believe he is probably the one that is the most woke that is allowed to have that opinion because of the show that he's on. I think he's doing an outstanding job. I mean, for him to be and you know how athletes get this stigma about them about not knowing what they're talking about or whatever, man. But he is obviously very well aware of what's going on in his world, in his country. His experiences that he brings to the air, I think he does an exceptional job. I even texted him about a month ago, and I told him, thank you for representing us well on the air, and he speaks up for us, and that's very important. As far as Jamel's concerned, she has an opinion. She can say what she wants to or whatnot. Sometimes we all know that sometimes we cross the line. I mean, like I said, I was always the person that they felt like was going to cross the line. I got too close to the line or whatever, so they'll try and snap you in your hand. But it's just different networks and different things that you talk about, different issues. With Jamel's case, you got to understand the NFL pays the ESPN a lot of money. So when it comes to ESPN, the NFL has more power than the White House, bro. That's just the bottom line.
They got their own. They got their own day of the week.
The White House is attacking Jamel, and that's one of those places where the line keeps moving. And if you're not real sure where the line exists, or maybe it's not even that, but I feel Jamel was justified in what she said. She spoke the truth, and I understand that it's a business and you get into it. But conversely, I don't see the White House going after Eminem or anybody else. So, or even after Shannon, and he's a big fan of some Henny and some Black and Milds, which I also admire. So if I'm going to the barbecue, I'd like both of them to be there. But why? At the point where the White House comes after one of your employees, I feel like it's due diligence for ESPN to stand up and say, "Hey, maybe the line was crossed, but where's the line now?"
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you don't know where the line is until you cross it with the wrong person. Like I said, it's like with the whole White House situation. I thought ESPN, even though I think in the beginning, initially, they were trying to admonish her or trying to punish Jamel. I think the fact that her colleagues and so many people spoke out against it, they listened to us. That's the great thing about social media, is that if there is a public uproar, ESPN and all these other networks listen to it because they don't want to lose their viewers or whatever, but they also don't want to lose that money, and the NFL is the one that pays them a lot of money. But I think with that line, it's funny how the White House, they only go after certain people that criticize them. If you look at it, and I'm not even going to bring it up. I think you're smart enough to kind of understand where I'm going with this whole situation and whatnot. But I think this president does that because he knows who his base is going to get more riled up at.
Yep.
If he goes and criticizes a certain amount of people or certain types of people, whatever, he knows that he's going to have his base behind him, and that's the only thing that matters for him. He's a big king distractor. He wants you talking about all these other situations. He wants to start all these fights because he's got so many other things that's going on in his political career.
Is that bait and switch? Are we experiencing a grandiose version of bait and switch? Hey, look at this over here.
Man. He's David Copperfield. It's like all this other stuff that's going on over here. He wants to start dangling the keys or whatever. He wants you to look over here at my left hand while my right hand is doing some dirt over here. So like it is, like you said, it's bait and switch. He's a huge illusionist right now. He wants you to look at the things that we're not supposed to be looking at, to stay away from and not pay attention to the things that are going to get him in trouble and possibly in his administration.
So this is our conversation, and we're in the midst of our race and sports series. So obviously we're going to be speaking a lot about race. Speaking of race, you just got into somewhat of a Twitter battle. Well, he didn't really respond, but with Jason Whitlock in regards to some of his comments.
Yeah, he does.
And one of the things that I have found is that a lot of the African-American sports journalists, commentators, personalities seem to either say over-the-top things or have an over-the-top shtick. What is your feelings on that? And is that where we are in order to cut through the clutter because we have so many options as it relates to media?
Well, that's a good question, too, and I'm glad you asked, because I think that the way we have so much debate right now is because people watch it. If you look at the way sports goes right now, look at the top shows that are on television. The highlight shows aren't getting the ratings they used to get, but the debate shows are the ones that are getting hundreds of thousands of people watching them on a daily basis when it comes to the studio shows, because it infuriates people, but it also speaks for some people as well. And the more you're over the top, the more you're on one side or the other, because, it's easy to be on the fence and, like, everybody feels the same way if everybody's kind of 50-50. But if you speak for a certain group of people, then you're going to piss somebody off, but you're also going to be speaking for somebody else. And people, the main thing is people are going to be talking about it. Once again, I'm cool with that. I have a problem with that unless it goes into the race issues and the political issues and the things that's going to affect us on a daily basis, where it hurts us in our pockets when it comes to monetary things, or just being dangerous out there with these crazy races that might be out there or whatnot.
What is the danger? Yeah, what is the danger of saying something like, LeBron James makes too much money to experience real racism?
Well, because then racists would be like, you know what? I can go over here and I can put the N-word on somebody's house. Yep. I can go to Brentwood out here in L.A. Yep. And these big time communities, the ones that are making $20 million a year, the $20 million communities, and I can put a swastika on a high powered Jewish producer if I wanted to. What if I wanted Steven Spielberg's house and put a swastika on it? Is that racism? Is that anti-Semitism? Yeah, that is. Yep. So when you're Jason Whitlock and you say something stupid like that, it gives these people who listen, because they're dumb people for doing it in the first place, it gives them the power to say, well, you know what, Jason Whitlock said it's not racist. I believe the same thing, and they're going out there and they're doing it. I have never seen a cross burning in an urban neighborhood. I've never seen that. I've seen a cross being burned in a very lucrative country club neighborhood where a black family moved in.
Yep.
That's when you hear about it.
Yep.
So you don't hear about it in Compton. You don't hear about it in certain parts of the hood or whatnot. You just don't do that. It doesn't happen. Right. So for him to bring up, and that's what I was really upset about, for him to bring up somebody's financial wealth or whatnot and saying that they are exempt from racism because of the amount of money that they have, I just thought that was ludicrous. That was stupid. And I was dumb, and once again, it's very reckless for him to say something like that.
I agree. I also think that Charles Barkley is in that same category in terms of the things that he's saying, the documentary that he did on race and sports. I think we have the collusion of in terms of racism, of a White House that promotes it and has made people feel very empowered and open about it. Do you see this coming to a head in sports? Do you think it's going to get worse before it gets better?
I think it's already here. Well, the great thing about it is that we're talking about it.
Right.
We're having this dialogue. I think that's the only positive that comes out of this, because I do believe that over the last 8 years when we had President Obama in office, a lot of people were feeling like, oh, we've overcome. Not black people, but I'm talking about people of other races felt like, you know what, oh, there isn't any racism anymore.
Yeah, we're done.
Because there's a black president. See, look how far we've come or whatever. But, yeah, as far as we've come, we still have so far to go because there was such a head start. It was a 20-year head start in this country. I mean, so you think about that, and you think about the gains that we've had, they've been minimal compared to the gains that other people have had out there as well. So when you say that, yes, we get opportunities, and yes, we have millionaires, and yes, we have guys who are in charge of certain things or whatever, and yes, we did have a black president, yes, that's great. But when you talk about what these guys are doing as far as kneeling is concerned, we're still talking about racial inequality. We're still not equal. We're still not being treated equally in this country. Yes, there are certain things that might be fair, but it's not being treated equally, and that's what they're looking for. You're talking about the police brutality in this country. You hear about all these issues on social media, and it's almost like an epidemic when you see so many people being shot down the street, and the justice that is not being given to some of these black men or some of these people of color after they're being killed in the street by these police officers. And it's been going on for years, longer than social media has been around.
Century.
And you can understand why people are so upset. So until we get to a place where we have equality, not an advantage, but equality, that is what we're fighting for, and that is what these athletes are fighting for, and that's what I hope that we continue to have this dialogue about, because, no, we have not overcome yet. We're not trying to overcome. We're just trying to get equal. We're not even on equal ground right now. Overcoming meaning we've gotten better than you. We've overcome you, and we're above you. We're not trying to be above you. We're trying to be equal with you. And until people realize that, and the people I'm talking about, then this country still has an issue and still has a problem, and we still need to fight for it.
Say that, Mike Hill. And listen, you're listening to iConversation. And we coming back with more Mike. Mike's dropping the mic on several occasions. He's open mic, and he's dropping the mic. We'll be right back.
Riffin' on Jazz.
This next gentleman we're talking about has an unforgettable voice.
My sugar is so refined.
Jazz was the happiest. Now, Callaway went to my school. Oh, really? Yes, he's not an alum because he didn't graduate. He had some gigs to do.
Riffin' on Jazz on the KUDZUKIAN Network.
KUDZUKIAN.
Give me your heart, make it real, or else forget about it.
And we are back with Mike Hill, not the bassist. And we're going to continue our conversation on sports and race. Mike, I think that the microcosm, especially within stadiums where people like to pretend we all get along for that one event, I think that you see all of this coming to a head where you have fans that feel like they can call players names and a player says something and they get fined. And the same for football with the take a knee. Where do you think this is going to move? Do you think a player will ever sue a fan for that, for costing him money?
Yeah, well, I think if it goes over the line, if a fan comes down and a fan spits on a player or throws a drink on a player, you got to remember one of the biggest brawls in history, and I hate that they bring it up all the time, but I'm bringing it up now. The Malice at the Palace. But, there have been hockey brawls where hockey players have jumped into the stands as well. Nobody ever brings that up as well. Yeah. So you got to understand that a cup of water, a cup of soda was thrown on a player and he jumped into the stands. That's how that all got started.
Absolutely.
So
with some words,
but no one ever talks about that. That's what's really interesting to me. No one ever mentions that Ron Artest got hit with a foreign object.
Right.
Exactly.
And the words that came along with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was laying on the scorer's table, and all of a sudden, somebody throws something down at him or whatever they feel like, and then they feel empowered. They feel like they're going to be protected because they're a fan. No, it's not usually the case, man. I mean, you still want to protect yourself. Now, you still got to have some restraint as a player, and I understand that. But after a while, you got people yelling at you, and I've been there. I've been in the tunnels. I've been on the field. I've heard some of the names that some of these players are being called, and right after the game, you're fired up and whatnot. And everybody expects you to have all that restraint. It's funny how some fans come out like, well, you need to have restraint. You need to be better than that and whatnot. You put yourself in that situation.
Is it a throwback? Is it a throwback though, Mike, to the whole gladiator concept? That you remember, if you think about the Roman days, you'd be in the Colosseum and the fans are throwing stuff at the players, and it's almost like the players aren't human. And I think that is really what is the genesis of this now. What we're seeing is mentality. Do you agree with that, or what's your thoughts as far as that's concerned?
I think that's what they do believe. They believe that these guys are the gladiators. They call them gladiators. They believe that because they paid a certain amount of money to go into a stadium, they can say and do whatever they want to. You can boo, you can scream, you can yell, you can cheer, whatever. But when you cross that line, and people sometimes know what that line is by using the N-word, by spit. That is the most disrespectful thing that you can almost do to a person, to be honest with you, is spit on them. And you spit on them and you're throwing things. It's like hard for a person not to have a reaction.
Do they see them as people?
No.
No, they don't. Obviously, they don't. If you spit on somebody and you call them out of their name, you don't see them. You don't see them as their equal. You see them as beneath. You see them as people, and you might be jealous of them for some reason. But think about this. We're not only the fans, but we just had an issue not recently at the taping of this show, is that Texas owner Bob McNair had to come out because he's calling the players inmates. Saying that you can't have the inmates running the prison. Are you serious?
Right.
You're talking about a league that's made up of over 75% of black players or whatever, and we got these issues right now, and you're going to call them, come on, man. There are certain words, certain keywords you need to stay away from.
Dog whistle.
Whether you meant it in the way or not, it just is a trigger, and it makes you wonder how these people are really looked upon. When you're talking about calling them prisoners, inmates, can't have the inmates run. They are the league. The players are the ones that the fans come to see. The players are the ones why the networks are paying billions of dollars for them to have them on television. They are the athletes. They are the superstars. They don't come to watch the officials. They don't come watch the coach. They don't care about the owners as much, whatnot, unless you're Jerry Jones. They really don't even care unless you're doing something that's negative, like Bob McNair just did, or Jerry Jones just did when he's talking about cutting or disciplined players that won't stand for the national anthem. So, but when you call them inmates and you call them names and things like that, it lets you know how they feel about these players, and it's embarrassing and it's a shame.
In 2017, we're talking about white owners discussing what black players can do on a field in 2017. And not only that, the media and white people in general, like the White House, have tried to whitewash the whole protest and say that it's about the flag and it's disrespectful to the military.
Yeah, and that's a shame. And that to me makes me really upset, because I served in the military for 6 years. And the thing is, ironically, I fought for the right, and I know a lot of other people that were in the military that still serve in the military fought for the right for them to have that First Amendment right. We're not in North Korea. We're not in a communist country where if you did something like that, you might be beheaded. Yep. We are in America where we have a democracy and we have those rights. We understand that there are consequences for using those rights. We understand that, but at the same time, do not say it's disrespectful to the military. Do not say it's disrespectful to that flag, a flag where you disrespect it all the time by wearing it on your body, by putting food on it at a cookout on the 4th of July if the flag is on a plate or anything like that, by putting it on the ground, by the way they display it at the games during the national anthem. That is disrespectful to the flag. Oh, you're also being disrespectful to the national anthem if you're booing the players during the national anthem because they are kneeling. Or also, how come we're only disrespecting the national anthem or the military during the national anthem when it's at a game or an arena or on a football field or whatever? Anytime the national, if you really care about this country, if you really talk about disrespecting the national anthem or the flag, whatever, anytime you hear the national anthem being played anywhere you are, why aren't you standing at attention? How many times have you been in your home, all these people that are screaming about disrespecting the national anthem, and the national anthem came on, and you stood there and you talked and you walked around or whatever? I was at the arena the other day and somebody was practicing the national anthem. Not one person stopped and paid attention or looked at the flag. When I was in the military, you was taught to do that. That's disrespecting the national anthem. Anytime it comes on, anytime you hear those words, you're supposed to stand for the national anthem if you're really talking about respecting the flag. They don't do that. So the only time we ever talk about disrespecting the national anthem is during that 2 or 3 minute period before a game when you expect these players to do so, and that is totally wrong. So don't give me that. You can leave me with that.
I'm going to let you finish, but what I want to know is why, if we all care about this country so much in 2017, are we not talking about the third stanza of the anthem that talks about killing slaves? I don't understand how we haven't approached this anthem as hey, wait a minute. We have these amendments constitutionally that are supposed to endow us with certain inalienable rights, and the rest of it we've tried to get, right legally, and we're still working on that. But how are we not talking about the fact that we still have an anthem that is supposed to represent all of us that talks about killing slaves?
Oh, and was written by a slave owner.
And was written by a slave owner.
Written by a slave owner. So, look, we understand we got presidents in this country that had slaves or whatnot. And, yeah, they don't want to talk about that because that's not the focus that they want to have you talking about. Once again, it's an illusion. This whole disrespecting the flag and the national anthem, this is the rhetoric that people want to put out there because they want you to talk about the what and not the why. Why these players are doing it. They don't want you talking about the inequality in America when it comes to race. They don't want you talking about police brutality. They want you talking about all the so-called disrespect to put the attention on that and the act of what they're doing instead of trying to get to a solution of what the real problem is in this country. So, yeah, I mean, if you talk about the third verse, if you had all of a sudden now, you see people that you found out a little bit later on, because a lot of people probably didn't know that Francis Scott Key was a slave owner, and then the third verse, you didn't know about the third verse. But when something is revealed about somebody who is an entertainer in this country a little bit later, all of a sudden you stop listening to their music, or you stop buying their music, or you stop supporting them or whatever. How come we can't? Yeah, R. Kelly, exactly. Or even, like the
Bill Cosby. I mean, we stopped. They took Bill Cosby shows off television,
off the air,
and they stopped making pudding pops.
No, and you know what? And the thing is, I'm not saying that people are wrong about that. Or Chris Brown or whatever when they do something wrong. But so now you find out about this. And it's a slave. Are you serious? And
it's the blueprint for systemic racism and institutionalized racism, though.
Absolutely,
you're right.
So listen, we're on our conversation, and we're talking with Mike Hill of Fox Sports. And as the one thing that I do love about Fox is that their commentators actually have the breath to be able to express themselves fully. So in the midst of you expressing yourself fully, your last day on the air, they're allowing you to pick your music. Ooh. You get to pick your song that you go out to.
Mm-hmm.
Mike, what is that cut and why?
Oh, it's absolutely, man. The song I will go out to is "You Don't Know" by Jay-Z.
Ooh.
You know, You don't know. I mean, that's my theme music right there. That's my coming in music. That's my going out music. Because what he says in that, man, is like, I will not lose ever. I mean, that to me is that's my life. I don't care what I am, what I'm doing, what I'm going through, what job I'm doing. I have a mentality, and it's not a cocky mentality. It's just confidence that I have in myself and my abilities, and whatever I do in this world, on this earth, in life, I will not lose. I will not let you beat me. So I'm going to fight until the end, and I'm going to keep pushing it to the end until I get what I want. That's just my mentality.
Now, did that come from the Alabama, or did that come from being raised on the West Coast? Which one?
That came from Linda Hill. That came from Linda Eaton, who's my mom. That came from and Lillian Gillis. That came from two women in my life that taught me that, you know what, if I want something in life, don't talk about it, be about it, go get it.
Love it.
So that's where that came from right there. So I shout out to my mom, my grandma, because without them, man, I'm not the strong man that I am today because my father was never around. So that's the bottom line, man. Hey, I got a real quick story about Memphis.
Please.
Sure.
All right, so I'm in Memphis. You know, you guys are in Memphis, so
this is our iConversation exclusive, everybody. This is our iConversation exclusive.
So you know, it's crazy, but I was there, and in Minnesota, they forgot to grab my bags from Minnesota going to Memphis. So I get to Memphis, and we right across the street with the hotel right across the street from the arena there, and I don't have any clothes. So the night before in Minnesota, I ripped my pants.
Oh, no.
So all I got is the suit that I had on last night with the ripped pants and some drawers that I was sweaty because it was hot for some reason or whatever.
Yeah, it is.
And so I wasn't going to be able to get my luggage until I got back to L.A. So I had to actually get in the Uber and go to some mall there in Memphis. I don't even know the name of the mall or whatever. I went to the mall in Memphis with some ripped suit pants on, going there and buy me a suit, went to Foot Locker and bought me some sweatpants and whatnot and all that stuff for the game that same night, man. So Memphis will always be near and dear to my heart because I had to go into Macy's and buy me a Calvin Klein suit. and I had to go down to the Foot Locker to get me some sneakers that I still wear today.
Oh, fantastic.
Right in.
Sweatsuit, man. Yeah.
Well, listen, man, when you come back to Memphis, we got you. iConversation on our own sports, we got you.
You have JC the tour.
There you go.
And I can't give you a lot of advice on jobs, but I do know that if anyone ever says to you, Mike, your new job is to teach DeAndre Jordan how to shoot free throws, that might be the job that you don't win at.
Wow. Now, you know what? He's doing much better shooting the free throws this year. I think he's up.
They look good. Okay, so one quick plug for the Clippers. Where do you think they end up this year?
Oh, my gosh. I mean, I think second round of the playoffs. I think they're going to be much better than a lot of people think they are. But, you know, at the end of the day, they probably, you know, I know Charles Barkley said Western Conference Finals, but this team is special, man. It really is. I really like what I see out of this team. If they can stay healthy, that's the big thing. And Patrick Beverley is the key, man. He's a bulldog. So I really feel like they can surprise a lot of people, you know, even with the loss of Chris Paul. I think they're actually a better team. Not better overall. I think they're better overall with the team that they have right now because they're more cohesive. They play more as a unit. Before they had superstars on paper, it looked better. But right now, if they stay healthy, man, I can see
Blake Griffin might mess around and be comeback player of the year.
And Doc Rivers always has a backup job as the voice of Cookie Monster if he doesn't want to coach.
Listen, Mike, we want to thank you for spending this time with us, man. I know you could spend your time a whole lot of places, but you chose to be here with us. And we want to thank you. We want to thank you.
Don't want to be anywhere different, man. So with my kids. But I appreciate you guys, man.
All right. Well, listen, Mike Hill, Fox Sports, man, you got to come back someday soon, all right?
Anytime. Thank you for having me on.
Absolutely. Listen, this is iConversation, and you've been listening to Mike Hill, and we'll be right back.
Artivism, Best in Blue, Funky Politics, Blues in the Basement, Neighborhood Connect, Riffin' on Jazz. on the KUDZUKIAN Network.
Hey, this is your guy, DC. Funky Politics. We're back. A brand new season, brand new shows, brand new guests. We're going to do it just right. Right here on the KUDZUKIAN Network.
KUDZUKIAN.
And we are back. Listen, we're about to go. We're about to leave
Sayonara.
you all for another week. But
Ciao.
you know what you can do? You can actually go to our podcast.
Shalom.
Listen, you can go to our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn app, or you can go to YouTube and Google R&R on Sports, and you'll find R&R, and then you can also look up iConversation, and we're going to be there. We're going to be there waiting for you.
Yeah.
But definitely, iTunes or Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Google. Either one of those, you're going to find us. And check out some of the work that we're doing. But today we had an amazing guest in Mike Hill. I'm sorry. Mike Hill. I got Jamel Hill on the brain.
We bring all the Hills in.
Right, exactly. But we had Mike Hill of Fox Sports, and he makes some very powerful comments.
Yes, he does.
He talked about the recklessness of Jason Whitlock, which is a colleague at Fox.
Yes.
So, and I mean, he didn't bite his tongue at all.
No, he
didn't bite his tongue at all when it relates to. He felt that Jason was being somewhat dangerous and reckless.
I agree with him.
Comments.
I agree with him. I think that we are in an era where security is going to become very important past that, because people already feel they have permission.
Right.
And they feel they have a powerful ally in the White House that gives them justification and the right
for being a jerk.
for being more than a jerk.
Yeah.
And
being racist and being disrespectful.
Absolutely.
And all of those things. So I have to agree with you. It's a little more than being a jerk. Yeah. Well, listen, Mike really did us justice, and I want to say thank you to Mike Hill and Fox Sports.
I'm going to give a shout out to Jamel Hill, because I feel like she spoke the truth, and I'm behind her as a woman and as a person.
Absolutely.
Call it like you see it, girl.
Well, listen, we'll be back next week, right?
Yes, sir.
With someone else that I think will be fantastic right here on iConversation.
We out.
Peace.
iConversation. Executive producer Larry Robinson. Produced at KUDZUKIAN Studios in Memphis, Tennessee. iConversation. Part of the KUDZUKIAN Network.